Good evening. Welcome to the Thursday edition of the Hawg podcast presented to you by Soap and Roastery Studios, part of the Believe and Buzz Radio Network, where you can hear us each week on 106.7 Buzz 2 in Central Town, Ozark. I am Porter Hayes, and alongside me as always is Adam Hall, and on tonight's show we will talk about the SEC moving to a 9, and we'll have some fun with the Auburn claiming national titles, and then of course Arkansas media has to have their. But before we start, we are brought to you by FanDuel. If you're like us, Saturdays are for the Hogs, Sundays are for the NFL, college, or sweating a last-minute field goal in the NFL, FanDuel puts the power in your hand with live odds, quick bets, early cash outs, and new customers even ride or die with your favorite NFL squad. Make every down count. Bet college, bet pro, bet FanDuel. So, Adam, I'm really surprised that the SEC went ahead and done this against it in essence, but, you know, part of me is the Big Ten underrated when we talk about how much, because usually it's been the SEC that's led the way with these charges. Big Ten's been doing it. Now they're catching heat for not. What do you think about this decision to start next year?
I think that we knew it was only a matter of time. I know a lot of us, not in the Big Ten fan world, some cupcake games, and we knew eventually that was going to have to change with the playoff system. I look at and whoever else voted on it, powers that be. I think it was done because in his mind, this ups the strength of schedule, and now that he can have potentially, you can have more. I still don't necessarily think that happens because I still think that the blueprint was laid last season with 10 wins, or you win your conference. Like Clemson is the magic number, but this does up your strength of schedule. I just look at it like, because we know how the SEC is, this could backfire on some teams, in my opinion. Just for Tennessee, or Vanderbilt over Alabama, you're going to potentially give some of these teams, another SEC foe versus an FCS school or a lower end, not even Power 4. I can't think. P5. Your Mountain West, your new Pac-12 when the years come, whatever. I think this could backfire some years. I don't think you're going to necessarily get the benefit outside of kind of the money grab of a higher profile game than SEC versus FCS.
And I get, and that's exactly, you led to the point up foremost for Razorback fans and fans across the SEC footprint about the decision made today to play 9 conference games beginning in 2026. Hosting 5 Power 4 games every season at Razorback Stadium will be an incredible opportunity for our players and staff, the Northwest Arkansas community, and our entire state. Nationally, the viewership of SEC football across the country is second to none, and by adding additional conference game, we are giving college football fans more of the games they want to see. Bogus. The money. You're getting another game. You're going to raise ticket prices because the quality of the opponents are going to come up. But you led to, teams that could be potentially hurt by this. Arkansas is going to be one of them. They've been screaming schedule for 5 years. They're screaming it this year. Look at the schedule this year. Look at the schedule this year. Look how hard it is. So you look at this year's schedule. Let's replace Arkansas State with Florida, or let's replace Alabama A&M or Memphis with a Tennessee or a South Carolina or a Kentucky. It's making it harder for the Razorbacks to now where you should already be. I do feel for that, have some hope, or we're going to turn this thing around. Something comes and now it's going to make it harder because now you've got 9 SEC games. You're ranked 13th. So every team you face besides 3, you could, the odds aren't in your favor of playing till you turn things around.
Well, we've seen not just recent past, but as long as Arkansas has been in the SEC, outside of this next basketball schedule that came out, nothing's ever in Arkansas's favor when it comes to scheduling and stuff. So it's one of those that was as political of an answer as Hunter Yurchek could have given because he's not going to speak out against it.
Well, and he's not going to because of the money part of it.
Mm-hmm. He wants to do whatever to continue to keep Arkansas in the black when it comes to revenue and all that jazz, because that's what makes him his money. Mm-hmm. That's what, Mm-hmm.
Well, and we knew this was going to happen. We've said it all along. College players wanted to get paid. They're getting paid. Now we're going to make you play. You're a good team. Now you're going to have, and this goes for Big Ten too, because they do play 9 conference opponents. These 2 conferences now, you've already expanded the playoffs to a 16-team format. And they're already talking about a 24, which I guarantee it goes to. I don't know when, but it will eventually go to that. We're seeing too much money being thrown around with pay-per-views and ESPNs and these streaming services and talk about pay-per-view games. It will go to a 24-team playoff before you know it. And you will see it will more than likely be with the expansion of the Big Ten and the SEC pretty much being the NFC and the AFC in the future.
100%. And, this has been talked about for the last year? Are we to a year yet? When we've talked about if this happens that you end up with a 32-team league, that there's no more Big Ten, SEC, it's just a 32-10 or a 32-team a super league, if you will. I mean, we're to the point. I mean, the Big Ten and the SEC, especially because they have the handshake deal, if you will, that they're going to partner up. They're more or less, from what it seems, they're not going to go against each other in the sense of rules, regulations, things like that. You're going to mimic each other when it comes to your scheduling, and that's what we're seeing. So what's the next step? Do you take out FCS games altogether? Or will some of these teams in some of these states be willing to do that? Because you got to think, an Ohio State playing, I'm not going to go down. I mean, even further from Ohio, a Youngstown State or Arkansas and UAPB, or Arkansas and if we ever played UCA, whatever, one of these these schools depend on the money that comes from those games. These schools depend on that $2 million. At some point, these schools are going to have to, or not going to have to, they're going to just put their foot down and be like, look, we can't do this anymore. We have this new league coming. So somebody's going to get the short end of the stick, and it's not going to be the Big Ten or the SEC unless you happen, whether it's Vanderbilt, Mississippi State, whoever it is. Somebody's going to get left out eventually. Right now, though, who knows? Arkansas, though, in this a pleasant time with adding an SEC game to this.
Because, and in true fashion of Sam Pittman, there's your out to never play the Arkansas State game again. They're not going to schedule. This will be it. This will be the only year they play that, unless Arkansas State down the road agrees to come to Fayetteville. So you know what? I mean, that just puts more pressure on this game. Is you better win it. You better win it handily. You better blow them out. Because you give them a chance to make this a game, knowing what's coming next year with an extra SEC game, just puts more pressure on that game. Puts more pressure on that Memphis game, because now you're going to be looking at who you're going to try to schedule for these other games. 2 games have you that you're going to need to now replace one or take one away, because now you're replacing one of those with an SEC school. And you're at the mercy of the SEC. They're going to give you the 9 games they feel that. So it's going to be one of those haves and have-nots. They're going to look at Arkansas. Well, we're going to give you what's left over if you keep finishing at the bottom, or we're going to put you against whoever needs that easy game. You're going to be somebody's extra game in the SEC, because until you turn things around, you become more competitive. They're going to give you that. They're going to throw you to the wolves,
And
you'll be the homecoming game for somebody moving forward, unless you turn this around.
we've seen that, in recent past, Arkansas being the homecoming game for random teams. But, it's one of those that this is now, I think, an even more important season.
Absolutely.
For Coach Pittman. I want to say in for Hunter Yurchek too. I think that aspect, he's safe. But for Coach Pittman, I think that this puts a little bit more pressure on it, because when it comes down to scheduling for, I don't feel like you want to go into the hot seat into this, because next year is kind of a little bit unknown who's going to be that additional team that we get. And you've now added more superior opponent. I'm not saying to Arkansas more superior, but a more superior opponent than whoever was on your non-conference schedule for next season, which I think was already done. The non-conference is.
Yeah.
So then you just got to look at who are they going to eliminate. Arkansas 2026, I believe that one is already done. So next year, North Alabama, at Utah, Memphis, and Tulsa are our 4 non-cons next year. So what, you're going to take out Tulsa or North Alabama more than likely?
Yeah.
And, that North Alabama is the first game. They've already got the dates for them. And the Tulsa is November 21st. So I don't see them taking out the at Utah or the Memphis game, because I do think that those games can bring in some money.
Yeah.
So
maybe I don't know.
I think
is the thing is the Memphis still a home and home contract? Because we got to look, if it's a home and home deal, you got to keep that one. Maybe the Utah one. I mean, but they've played Utah. Yeah, it'd have to be one of those schools. And so think about this. Just think about 9 SEC games and Utah and Memphis. That'd be, I mean, it's crazy to think, but we're looking at where they are. But I would be almost this season to where, if you do go 6-6 in the regular season, you're looking at a tougher schedule. Do you continue to ride with Sam, or do you break ties and just go into this with a clean slate on extending? And then by the time you rebuild your program, if they do, say they bring in a guy like Rhett Lashley, by the time they expand to possible 24, look at Arkansas, say they do go to a 32-team conference, you're going to have to put yourself in a position, because they'd be like, Arkansas, we don't want you. You're out. You're going to go play with the mid-majors. You're not in our 32-team pile anymore unless the SEC and
I think that you'd have. I think Arkansas would be safe with the money that the entire athletic department produces. I think that you take Arkansas. I'm not saying bombed this season or whatever for a 32-team league, you would still take them. But this season, 5-7 or below. If you don't make the bowl game, I think that you look at, like you were saying, I think you are going to end up being a game for, you're gonna face one of the contenders that you may not have faced next season. And I think that that's just how it's going to work. Arkansas football is not going to get anything favorable scheduling wise unless they start winning. So I think if you can't reel off 7 to 8 wins this season, you're going to be in that boat. Action show next week, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think that you put yourself in a decision will have to be made quick.
Yeah,
because I don't think you can limp into.
Here's another question. Rabbit hole of this contract of Sam Pittman. Say they go 6-37. Do they let him go before the bowl game? Not coaching the bowl game, he would be at 500. And wouldn't he get a bonus for that?
Yeah, if he's at 500 or above, he gets not a bonus, or he gets more of whatever's left of his contract. If he's below 500, it cuts in half. If he's above 500, what's left of his remaining contract is, and he doesn't get as much. I think it's 50% of. So I think if you're in that position and you know that you're moving on, I don't think you let him coach in it.
On your head, it's what we talked about last week. It's on Hunter's head, because if he finishes 36-37, I'm going to keep riding you. I don't think. But yet again, you go into these bowl games, it's a toss-up. You're going to go into some low-level bowl game and play some horrible team that you're probably going to beat or whatever. You're giving the man more money on his buyout, or you're riding with him and going into the next season, this bigger gauntlet. He's gonna have to win 7 games, I think.
I don't think there's any dancing. Hey, we're gonna mutually agree. I'm gonna retire. I'm gonna this. I'm gonna that. So it's not dirty.
Yeah.
So it's not messy. Maybe that there's something in there that's just, hey, retire or step down, whatever the case may be. And there's, some other exchange of monies, whether it's however they want to phrase it, not a buyout, not retiring versus, being fired. But we know in the realm of the coaching world, we know what mutually agreeing to part ways is. So, however they want to phrase it, we'll all know what actually transpired based on money he's given after the fact. Yeah. He is only going to get tougher when you're adding in a 9th conference
We're
game.
going to take a quick commercial break. After the break, we're going to discuss what three teams we would love or think that Arkansas will be playing, and then we'll discuss join the discussion right here live in our comment section, and we'll be right back after the break. Looking to enhance your home's curb appeal? Look no further than Vision Exteriors. As your trusted roofing, siding, and exterior experts, we're here to transform your property. Our skilled team ensures your job is not only functional but also aesthetically pleasing. Along with roofing, we also offer window, gutter, and siding insulation to boost your home's appearance with our quality options. Visit us at www.visionexteriors.com or call us at 479-397-4770. Let's make your vision a reality. And welcome back to the Hawg Talk podcast. And before the break, we talked about one of the guidelines of this 9-game schedule. And in one of the bylaws, or I guess you can call it a bylaw, it is you will be giving 3 permanent opponents. So, Adam, if you were to pick, and you could do who you want and who you think, or however you want to roll with it, what 3 teams would you want to see Arkansas play every single year?
I think from the realm of everything, I'd like Texas, OU, and LSU is who I would want.
Okay.
That's not what I think will happen, though.
What do you think will happen?
I think in the realm of what the SEC does and their forced rivalries and such, I think that they will keep Missouri. I think that they will keep LSU. And then part of me feels like they would keep A&M over Texas.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, I feel like the overdone trophies. I feel like that they'll keep them, and I feel like Texas or the SEC kind of forced the trophies. With Texas A&M, obviously with the battle line. So I think that that's where they go with that, is keeping Missouri, LSU, and Texas A&M.
Yeah, I think it's the easy 2 for me is Missouri and Texas, because you're going to have a rivalry. I think Missouri is the shoe-in. I think Texas, because of what it brings, it doesn't matter. We know how both teams play. Sark, I don't think they consider Arkansas a rival, but Coach Speak, he says Arkansas is a rival. We know Arkansas feels it is a rival. And I feel that toss-up, my toss-up is you're talking about the A&M or LSU. I'm going LSU. Because again, when I talked about this in the first segment, think at what Texas and LSU, when they're having to pick 3 permanent opponents, you don't think they don't want Arkansas? Yeah, with LSU and Texas, it's always a hard fought game, but in the grand scheme of what you're trying to do, you feel like you have the upper hand. You feel like the rivalry is Arkansas against you, opposed to who you feel is a rivalry. But I could be totally wrong, and you could throw in an Ole Miss. You could throw in a Texas A&M. You could even go Old Southwest Conference and go Texas OU and Texas A&M. There's a lot of things that could happen. But the good thing about it is each team will face every other SEC program at least once every 2 years. You're not going to have these teams that go 10, 12 years without facing each other. A lot of these teams that's been able to duck these big games or these opponents, and I'll call out the East when it was the East and their horrible schedules they had. You're not going to have that anymore. So a lot of that plays into it. Yeah, we know every other year we're going to be playing these people, but who do we want every year? And that's why I'm going Missouri, Texas, and LSU, because we know every year those 3 games and every other year will be in Fayetteville. That's going to be a huge draw when it comes to, all right, do you want to keep these 3, Missouri, Texas, LSU, or do you want to throw, and maybe the only other one that I would say when we're talking about a draw, you mentioned them, Texas A&M. Outside of that, maybe Ole Miss, but I don't see what would bring a draw. But you bring Missouri, Texas, LSU, that is guaranteed draw no matter what the teams are doing. And the way you play against both of those schools, outside of Missouri, you have a fighting chance, at least in a lot of those, if you're needing a win or you want to be competitive and you want to grow, you're playing tough competition and you have a fighting chance against these schools. It's not like an Ole Miss or A&M where you just can't get that off your shoulder. You're getting blown out or you're losing, however, against A&M. Missouri's the same way, but it's that rival. I think that's the shoe-in game, and the other two will be a toss-up.
And I think that the SEC they'll consider too. They'll probably look at some of these matchups, and they'll think, okay, who can we put every 2 years? And when I say that, I mean like rivalries that will they look at this and be like, okay, not Texas and OU, but Texas and Arkansas. I'll just put them out there. Would we want to play this one every year, or would it mean more if we did it every 2 years?
Yeah.
Would it let it build up for a year? Or if it was Arkansas and Ole Miss, or I feel like we're going to start getting into some storylines with some of this that, hey, it's going to be 2 years before we get our chance at redemption on some of these. And they're going to start playing up the storyline nonsense that we see year in and year out.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of unknown with it. We'll see what happens though.
Well, I know Arkansas as of right now has a little say outside of the Missouri game because they made a funny comment. He's like, he can't wait for the 3-hour special of these reveal teams. And, they'd hint around about this with the pod issue, the 4 teams. Well, now it's over a year. But it worries me going to 9 games and the state of the Arkansas program and how they're perceived. I mean, you're seeing national media starting to back away in the bag. Now it's starting to go away. I know that has a lot to do with it. Hunter Yurachek's going to have a big decision coming because think about, they do go to this 9-game schedule. They do go to this new era, possible expansion, and you bring in a guy like Rhett Lashley. You're talking about firing up the fan base. You're starting it over just like you got rid of Musselman, you brought in Cal. It would have to be somebody like that would spark. And then you're talking about more revenue, more people coming into these games. It's, to my opinion, it's going to be the best thing that happens this year. I don't see Arkansas winning enough games to satisfy me where you got to keep Sam Pittman. It's just too daunting. I think this is the last year. You're going to a new schedule, new format, cut ties, and bring somebody else in to run
It's
this
something
ship.
that you've got to finally be, and I'm not going to say ahead because this season would have been the season to get ahead of it. But we've seen too often needing. I mean, we talked about this when you took away the East and the West. Like we needed to be ahead. Like the season that like, hey, we've got to make or break. Like we need to get ahead of this. Blah blah blah. What did we do? What was it? We went 4-8. So it's one of those that we're always reactive, and even still, when we react,
Even when you get ahead of the curve, you still screw it.
I think that moving into a nine conference game season, like you've got to be ahead of this drastically, and then to get yourself in line coaching wise before the potential. Because it's inevitable, whether people want to talk about it or not, it's going to happen. There's too much money in it. We're seeing it left and right. We're seeing the foundation being laid for all of this. So it's one of those things that you get your shuffling to try to figure out, hey, we didn't make the right coaching hire here, so we're going to try to do it here. Like, stop waiting for something to happen to do it. Just pull the trigger and do it. Because guess what? It's not going to fix itself, or it would.
Yeah, absolutely. And coming from, Hunter Yurchek and the potential of, will Sam Pittman have a lackluster performance this year? Now your seat is caught. And this is another thing to throw at you. Is it one of them things where he's not worried about his job because he can go somewhere else and be an AD because he's got a resume? He's got a good resume. Or do you say if your AD and your head coach are gone because he's already proven that he has applied other places or interviewed for other spots? So who's to say that we'll get all this stuff to build my resume? I'll just go somewhere else and start over and go that way with it. And then guess what? Arkansas is left with a crap program, trying to build a new program with a new coach and a new era and a new AD.
A lot's going to fall on his shoulders. We all think that, 1 foot in, 1 foot out with the interviews, and I'm not going to say job offer, which I think was a crapshoot to even throw your name in the hat for that one. But, we heard South Carolina, we've heard Texas A&M. You're already in the SEC, so it's one of those that you would have to. I feel like the majority, if it's not another SEC school, it's obviously wasn't Ohio State. If it's like 10 schools, everything else is a step down.
Yeah.
Great. Coming from Houston, basketball program, yes. What else? Nothing. You're in a lackluster conference. So anything in the Big 12, step down. Anything in any other. So it's something that, however he wants to, roll the dice, plays cards, whatever. But I'm ready to have somebody in here that is truly has the athletic department, the football program in their best interest. We already know that the fans aren't in the best interest. So
talking more so the head coach than the AD. You've got this 2 out of your 3. You have the foundation set, and if Dave Van Horn decides to move on, you have your program. You get anybody you want because of the program itself. You just got to fix the football program. And another thing, with Hunter Yurchek is, what if he just decides, because we know how he is about NIL, what if we know there's expansion, there's a super conference coming? What if he's kind of waiting to see how this rides and he goes more ahead of going to a committee or going and overseeing the NCAA or the new whatever it may be to be on that? Good fundraiser. Where is he going to fit in if he is against this NIL and he doesn't want the players, but yet he's just a salesman?
Well, and we've seen too other schools thinking out of the box, and I know we've talked about NIL and other schools and Hunter Yurchek, but just talking about this just made me think about like what Tennessee's done, and what we're about to see South Carolina do, moving away from Under Armour. Tennessee going back to Adidas with revenue. I mean, Tennessee's Adidas deal is $20 million a year. So here we are, schools finding more ways to get their players money. And we're still trying to figure things out with raffles that go to the foundation, not to the players, and all this. I mean, it's again, other schools are finding ways to get the money in order to compete, and we're still sitting here twiddling our thumbs with a $1 million a year Nike deal or however much it is, $7 a year deal with Adidas.
Well,
You know,
it's going
much
to go
as
to
I hate Adidas,
Apex. You're going to go back to those Apex
I mean,
jerseys with the
you know what?
Hogs
If they want to pay 15, 20 million a year, go to New Balance.
Yeah.
I think Boston College or somebody's rocking New Balance uniforms this year. Go to one of these other ones. I don't care if they're paying, if they're footing the bill. I mean, hell, wasn't it Aeropostale, Postal, however you want to pronounce it? They had uniforms once upon a time for a school or two.
Yeah.
Go to Rawlings, go to Champion. I do not care. Because at the same time, you're not doing anything to set yourself apart. And again, I'm not all about throwing millions upon millions of dollars to these players because I think it's created issues. I am for them getting money and getting paid, yes, but I still think that there's got to be a cap on it. But when you're talking about the grand scheme of things and hey, right now there's no cap and we've got to build these rosters and we've got to have this money, you've got to figure it out until they tell you you can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And you know, kind of some of the interview clips that we had posted the other day with Coach Cal on the Nothing Personal podcast. You know, he thinks that the collectives should be used for player retention, not in your recruiting of freshmen, high schoolers, and whatnot. It should be used to keep the players that you have here as an incentive. Keep them here so that they're not trying to transfer out and go to other schools. But who knows? It's still going to be the Wild West. It's still until you have a collective bargaining agreement and all this stuff. It's going to be you can do whatever you like, in the words of T.I.
And perfect comment right here. 9 days out and no hype of any kind about raffle week 1. You bragged about the raffle. You said to everybody, where's the raffle at now? You're talking about marketing. You could have 2 weeks of good, get something, put it out there, but they haven't done it yet. So that's a great point right there. We're talking about we need money. We need money. Well, it's not going to NIL, so why are they pushing it? They're just putting it out there because the fans are getting half, so that they don't care. I think they made their point with that very first one. They got a lot of money, and they're like, see, we can do it. We'll do it again. Of course, people are going to be excited the first time, and I don't care if it does get $50,000. A fan is buying a chance to win $50,000. So I don't know about it. That's what the raffle means. When you could have went to Saracen and you could have made this a every week thing for every school, now you crapped on it, and now you want to be selfish. You wanted to take all the control, saying you did this, but where's the raffle at now?
I'm a little suspect.
I guarantee you'll be out for the Notre Dame game.
I'm a little suspect on the winners that were chosen too. I'm just
that's another episode.
Well, the whole raffle and this. I just feel like with the university, with the foundation, with whoever running it.
You don't think they ain't giving that?
You're meaning to tell me those people aren't part of the the donors or foundation?
Just happened to have been there.
They don't want Jimmy from Batesville winning, a couple $100,000. So let's make sure its donors get it.
Yeah. Again, that's another conspiracy that we got to spend a Sunday or a Monday show on that one. But yeah, I can't wait. I got to make sure I'm safe. I got to make sure that check hits tomorrow if we start thinking about that.
Yeah, definitely.
No, before we wrap up, Auburn, speaking of just game-changing things, Auburn decides, hey, we're going to, retire Cam Newton's jersey. Cool. No, we're going to go a step further. We're going to claim national championships. I don't understand how they can seriously get in front of a mic and get in front of people and say, we are claiming national championships. Now we have 9. The most ludicrous. I mean, you're one of the ones that were all over UCF for doing that. And now you want to claim more. You want to say your name. What does it matter? You think nobody's really legitimately holding you to that, saying you're a 9-time national championship. Go ahead, make your shirts or however you want to spin it. But everybody knows it's not legit. You didn't do it. UFC didn't do it. Nobody outside of UFC, UCF claims that national championship. You were an SEC school. You were supposed to be the top of the top. Act better, do better. Don't act like a UCF where you're like, oh, we won that one national championship. You're better than that. And all it does is create buzz they're laughing at you. And to top it off, then you have people jumping on it. Well, if we're going to go national championships, well, let's just give Darren McFadden 2 Heisman trophies. Like, what are we doing? But I also think that there's nothing to talk about Razorback sports. There's no hype really around this season outside of Hogs Plus or what are we seeing, and the people who want to write about it because they get paid per click. But it's just there's enough being changed with this game to sit here and say I want a participation trophy because I figured our margin of victory was this, we deserve a national championship. The only one that they have maybe a say-so in was the 04 one where they went undefeated and didn't get a chance. I give you a right to say the argument of that one because you didn't get a chance to prove that you're the best team in the country. But these other ones, it's ridiculous.
It's one of those things that you have players and coaches that are like that. Hey, we didn't play in the game. We don't. I mean, just like when we see teams that have vacated national championships in the past, the team that lost, they're not saying, "Oh, hey, the championship's ours now." You didn't win the game, and it's ludicrous. It's ridiculous. And then for Tommy Tuberville to come out with his little this, that, and the other, in the world that Tommy Tuberville lives in right now, and I won't get political with it, but you're so anti-participation trophies. You're so anti-handouts and this, that, and the other. But here you are wanting to accept this, wanting to pat yourself and your team on the back. It's nonsense. And then for the Arkansas writers of the world, if you will, or those that have chosen to post about it or whatever, I know a lot of it is kind of done as a half-assed joke. It's done as clickbait. It's done for interactions. Stop with the Darren McFadden. Let's give him 2 Heisman trophies. If you did not hold the trophy at the end of the season or at the end of the presentation, I'm sorry, you did not win it.
Yep.
And as much as that sucks, at the same time, you didn't win it. Let's stop. Let's end it. You make yourself look ridiculous. You make yourself look stupid. Guess what? We all know that Darren McFadden argument there. A lot of people around the country believe that also. But just to put stuff out so that people look at your posts or look at your articles, stop. Because all you're doing is put Auburn is doing right now. I mean, I'm just waiting for Florida State to come out and say, "Hey,
they'll be next.
13-0."
See, they'll be next.
I mean, so it's just a look at me moment. It's ridiculous, and the people that are on board with it that are also against participation trophies. Guess what? This is the biggest participation trophy than a participation trophy because you weren't even invited to the national championship game. You don't even go here. Is the way I look at it.
That you're the guy in the corner with the camera.
Exactly.
To be there so bad. You like what you've seen in the championship game, but you're just the one holding the camera.
I'm not going to state the comment that I was about to state, but hotel rooms have chairs next to the beds. You're the guy sitting in the chair. Yeah, I'll just go ahead and say
you're Tom Bodette. Leave the light on for you. So, Adam, you got anything else?
We need to end it on that.
But before we do, let's see the Hogs. Sundays are for the NFL. FanDuel, you can bet like a pro. Right now, they got Arkansas at the over-under at 5.5. So whether you're stacking odds, gameplay parlay, on college or sweating it with last-minute field goal cash outs, new customers, even score bonus bets just for signing up. So if you ride or die with the NFL team or you're calling the Hogs, make sure every down counts. Bet college, bet announcements coming up Sunday. Huge show coming up Sunday. Hog HQ. I will let you lead into that. I don't know if you've put it out there yet, what you're talking about, or game week per se for us. Sunday night 8:05 Hog HQ. Monday night 6:05 Hog Talk podcast. But Adam, talk about Hog HQ live Sunday night.
Sunday night, we've been kind of hyping it for a few weeks, actually, longer than that. Just a revitalization, if you will. It's still going to be Hart, DP, and myself. And then this Sunday will be our season prediction show. We'll go game by game, thoughts and whatnot. And then you and I will
next Thursday, the kind of the last hoorah before the season begins. We kind of don't want to stack the two on the same night, but it pertains to the Hogs is because there's nothing to. I don't know. There's nothing. I mean, they just said they're moving in offensive lineman to the defensive line because the lack of depth. That scares me, number one, right off the bat, that we got a better football team, stronger and faster, but now we got to go fix the whole defensive line. So we'll get into that more Sunday at 8:05. But for Adam Hall, I am Porter Hayes. Want to thank everybody at Believe, everybody at FanDuel, all of our listeners and our sponsors. We'll catch